have our masks on too, and so.
Between the math and, did you hear
Right.
it?
Okay,
Did
great.
you hear it?
Yes.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. So we have one observer. Do we have any comments from the observer? Okay. Approval of the minutes from the regular and closed meeting of December 14th. Can I have a motion on that?
I have a correction,
Oh, okay.
and that is, I'm not in the present list
Oh,
on either of those minutes for the 14th. I'm in the minutes themselves, but I'm not in the intro.
That means you were here. So we need to.
okay. Well, then we have to vote on that.
Well, let's just say,
Okay, we'll add Maureen to the members present. Okay.
thank you, sorry.
That's okay, no
Now with
problem.
the amendment, do we have a motion to approve the regular?
Motion to approve as amended.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, it passes 7-0. Motion to approve the closed meeting of December 14th. A motion to do that.
Is it same amendment?
With the same,
Same amendment. Okay,
Motion to approve as amended.
second,
Second.
okay, and all in favor? Okay, that passes 7-0. Next is the director's report, Richard.
Thank you, good evening, everyone. Happy New Year, first of all.
Happy New Year.
Not much to add to my report here, but just want to add that about the tax revenues. You recall that there was a delay in the notices going out, the bills going out, and so that meant a delay in us receiving our revenues for the fall collection. But good news, Polite has been receiving money through our accounts from Cook County, and so we received most of what we expected.
99.8%.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
Of the levy.
we're in really good position for the 2021 levy amount that we were expected to receive in 2022. So that was really good news to hear. So just want to reassure the board that things are looking good on that end. And just a quick note about the budget that we're working on it. We'll have the first look in February for all of you. So at that time, I'll have a memo with, as I usually do, with more comments on what's increasing, what's decreasing, important comment as well. Yeah, and that's really it. We met with Commissioner Morita in Cook County, the new board commissioner, Justina Morita, and we had a great meeting with Commissioner Morita and her staff, her directors, and I felt very encouraged that there will be more opportunities to collaborate with Cook County, but also collaborate with other communities and Cook County kind of together all in one. So more on that later as kind of things develop, but we had a really good discussions. So that's pretty much it.
Any questions, comments?
Someone tried to
observe.
join us?
Oh,
So, yes, have a seat.
any questions or comments on Richard's report?
Did you have any ideas about projects that, or was that discussed, or was it just more of a getting to know you
It was
kind
more
of
of a
thing?
getting to know you type meeting where Commissioner Morita and her staff kind of shared more information about what was happening in Cook County, their services. And then we also shared some of the things that we've been working on. And we work with public elected officials, the state senators, state reps a lot, but with Cook County commissioners, we haven't really done as much. So we're looking forward to that.
Oh, that's great. I have an idea later.
Did you want to say?
No,
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean.
that's what I was, you aren't there yet,
Right,
but
right.
know when you are. I have something I'd love to talk to put on the plate.
Absolutely.
Okay, any other questions or comments on Richard's report? Okay, next is the disbursement report. Any questions or comments on the disbursement report? Anyone?
I did. This is weird because we're jumping around, but what's section 125?
Section 125 is our, so a staff, it's a staff opportunity for staff to put away, have payroll deductions from, for care, childcare or whatever, and then they can
Okay.
go from that after a year to tax savings opportunity.
Okay, that made it make more sense, thank you.
Okay, any questions, comments on the disbursement? Okay, can I have a motion to approve the disbursement?
So moved.
Okay, a second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Right?
Aye, yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, that passes 7-0. Next is the consent agenda. Questions or comments on the consent agenda?
I don't know whether that's, I'm in the right place or not, but I do have a question, a quickie. And that's there's that lovely list of gifts that the library has received. And I thought that was really nice, and I just wondered how we do, I'm sure you do something that acknowledges the gift and da-da-da-da-da.
You're
But
right.
it just seems to me that the board should have a presence in that thank you, you know, so I don't know what that means, but that's my thought on it, and I just
Sure.
wanted to.
I can bring the template, the letter that the template that we use to send thank you letters to people who donate money to the library, and maybe we can discuss reformatting that.
A little tweaking.
Yeah. That's a good
great.
idea.
Looks like we lost 3 of our members. So it's in memory of.
I know we're moving right along, but I have one more.
Sure.
Have you got candidates for replacing the production specialist?
The production specialist, no, we haven't posted that position yet.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions on the consent agenda?
Just to comment, page 20, when you start looking at comparing circulation statistics and gate count over fiscal years. And from what I can see for youth collections, we're now at basically an all-time high, so we're exceeding COVID and pre-COVID years. Which is nice. The adult stuff is still under, the gate count is still under, but at least for the youth, it looks like we just surpassed all the other years, so that's.
Yeah, the print is about the same as, slightly behind, maybe 10% behind what it was.
For the youth,
5 years
turning those
ago.
picture books spaced out and grouping them in categories
Is
has
that
led
what
to
did
a
it?
large increase.
That's
Yeah,
Yeah, all the time that was put into the renovation, how the collections would be displayed and allowing for more browsability of the collection, I think is paying off, especially in the youth area.
Yeah, and I see the numbers getting back up. Good work, guys.
Thank you. A lot of that is Laura and Annabelle Mortensen, our access services team, and her whole team. They do a fabulous job, and as well as all of our materials handlers, putting the stuff where they need to be.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, that passes.
Thank you.
7-0. Next, the quarterly investment update.
I'll turn this over to Blythe if you have any specific questions, but as you can see, it's not much has changed. All of the changes have been reflected in the spreadsheet there. It's very similar to what we saw in the school.
Take it we're getting more interest now.
From some of our accounts, the interest rate has definitely gone up, and our main one, Illinois funds, is better than we've seen it in many years, so that's a nice thing to see.
Blake, do you have any sense of how we sort of did overall in the year? We put in $1.5 million, so that sort of skews the final numbers.
Right.
everybody else lost in 2022 for most investments.
Well, because in terms of investments, it's not like we're in the market where we always keep our principal. What's interesting, I noticed, and I had to look at it to make sure the calculations were right, the interest earned for 2022 was almost 104,000. Last year it was, I think, maybe like 20. So the interest is going up. Principal in terms of unless we spend it to do the roof or something like that, that's the only thing that would make it go down. If you'd like me to calculate without the 1.5, I can do that.
No, I just,
Okay,
it's not worth it.
okay.
Overall, it makes sense, and so since it's just locked in interest rates, we didn't get hit
Right.
by the drop in the market.
No, right.
They're very
We don't.
low risk investments.
Great.
Any other questions on the investment update? Okay, moving on, the approval of replacement of the domestic water booster pump.
So this is something that Building Services Manager Andy Garcia identified as something we needed to replace this year. This is a system, I'll try to explain it, he explained it to me, I tried to explain it in my memo, that basically allows for the water pressure and the flow throughout the building. So it's located in the second floor, but it supplies water throughout the entire building. And we knew this was coming up, but we weren't sure when, and he recommended replacing it sooner rather than later, just to be safe, because if that fails, then we really don't have enough water pressure to open the library safely in terms of like facilities and all that, the restrooms, sinks and all that. So we put out an RFP, a request for proposals, and we received 3 proposals, and Kerrigan Plumbing came in at the lowest, and they're a company that we've worked with very a lot in the past, and we're happy with their performance. So they also came with positive references. So he recommends going with the Kerrigan Plumbing proposal at $40,465. I agree with him. So if you have any questions, I can try to answer them.
How old is our current system that we're replacing?
The current system is, I believe, I had this, I believe it's close to 20 years old.
It is close.
Yeah, like 18 to 20 years old, I believe.
And, excuse me, in the material that we read, I didn't see any mention of a warranty. Is that just not applicable to this kind of contract, or?
No, usually this type of equipment comes with some type of like parts and labor warranty. I don't know the exact specifics, I'll have to look into that, but yeah, I'm sure there's some type of warranty.
Right, I didn't see it, so.
Yeah.
I'm just curious how the problem was identified. Like, were there current issues that you're already experiencing with the water, or was it just something that someone happened to notice, or?
I don't believe so. I mean, this was always on our list of something
Okay.
that we would need to look into and kind of keep an eye on. And Andy does like periodic, a regular routine of checks on all our systems, along with our HVAC company and our plumbers. So I think this is just kind of identified as something that it's not failing yet, but we don't want to get to the point where it fails, especially before like a potential third floor project. So we want to get it. The other impetus for this was because back in the fall when we started discussing this project, the lead times for equipment was many months. So we wanted to get ahead of this and kind of do the RFP early on and get a figure and try to submit this in so that we can start waiting for the parts and scheduling the project as early as possible. So that was kind of the idea.
Yeah, I was just trying to distinguish if there was an emergency or like
No,
this is
no.
proper, okay.
It's not an emergency, thank goodness, but
It's still necessary
It's
work.
a pressing issue, yeah,
Okay,
that we
got
want
it.
to address, yeah,
Thank you.
sure.
Was this part of our capital projections?
There wasn't part of our capital, the building review, the last building review that was, I mean, the equipment is mentioned, but it's not mentioned in a way that said on this date, you have to replace it,
Right.
but because it's working, right, it appears to be working. But in the structure, in the engineering have examination, but evaluation for our renovation project started in 2018. A different set of engineers came to like kind of examine everything, and in their report, they identified a specific was missing. Back then, it was 2018, they said that we probably have about like 5 years left or so, and so like I said, we knew this is something that we would need to approach, but, and he came to me and said, I think we should do this sooner rather than later, not risk anything. So,
What is the life
I believe it's 20 years.
on a 20-year plan?
The technology they're talking about for monitoring just seemed like a really good idea.
Yeah, it'll allow him to not, and don't have to like walk up to the piece of equipment, but he can monitor it on his phone, and so he'll know if there's an issue with the water pressure in the building right away. So then we can call our HVAC contractor and plumber and make sure that it's addressed.
All right.
Oh, actually, I pulled up my notes here.
This is 23.
Let's see here. The system is 18 years old in 2018, so now it's 23, 22 years old. So,
Thank you.
yeah, and this lifespan is 20 years.
20 years.
And then I just had one more question
Sure.
about the proposal. I noticed that there's the line item for around 38,000, and then there's the additional line item where if the work is to be completed in off hours, it adds an additional 2,200. So is the plan then to add, I'm assuming that's what that 40,000 sum
Yes,
is
so
inclusive of, so we would be doing this off hours to prevent any disruption to the library, or what's the plan with that?
Really, it will take about 2 days.
Okay,
And so we wanted the board to approve the higher amount so that when we get to the point when we're scheduling the work and they're here and we're planning everything, if it makes sense for us to have them work overnight and continue kind of like for the first day with the chance that we can finish it with minimal disruption on the second day, then we wanted to get that, have that as an option.
okay,
It's possible that we might not go that route, and then it would return back to the lower amount, but the approval request is
for the whole amount.
Yeah,
Got
large amount, just in case we wanted to do that.
Okay,
But there will be, we shouldn't have to close the library, that's what we're thinking right now, but the water pressure will be lower that first day and perhaps second day, so he said that he thinks that it'll be sufficient to still open the library, but we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, I think the preference, for me at least, would be to not close the library if possible
Absolutely.
to do the work.
I
I think that that's worthwhile to keep it open.
I agree, yeah. It's not that big of a difference for us too, so.
When we think about the impact of it.
And they're saying 2 days.
That's the idea, is 2 days, over 2 days.
Any other questions or comments? So can I have a motion to approve acceptance of the proposal of Kerrigan's Plumbing to replace the domestic water booster pumps at a total cost of $40,465?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
yes,
Yes.
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 Yes?
Yes.
Okay, that passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Next is a discussion of the art acquisition process.
Yes.
Yeah.
I made so many notes. I'm so excited about that.
I am too.
I am so excited about that. I have many, many notes.
I enjoyed reading the art appraisal document and seeing all of our collection.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna repeat what I have in my novel here, but I wanna introduce Van Rosenbaum. She is our visual design supervisor, I should say. And, Van's been with us for
About 9 years.
almost 10 years. And I think, I don't know if you have ever met Van, but you know Van's work because it's everywhere in the library. Every aspect of our, even our website, our publications.
Our newsletter.
Newsletter, exactly, our display signage. I mean, I can go on and on. The signage on the restrooms, you know. Anything that really didn't come from the renovation project, you know, and all of that was done with Ben's help, but Ben has really done such a great job here, so just as a way of introducing, our guest here, so, just a long story short, Van and I have been discussing a little bit about, what we want to do with diversifying our art collection in-house. We have a large collection, not all of it is displayed. We weren't able to display all of it after the renovation, but I think we've done a good job of displaying quite a bit throughout the first and second floor, and as well as the third floor, actually. But we've also had discussions with Fran, and I know Noreen and I have had a couple of discussions about, what comes next now for our collection process, and our acquisitions policy, as well as our accessioning policy. Like, how do we want to get rid of collections if it's not displayed? Do we want to just keep them in our storage? Do we want to let go of them somehow? How much does the board want to get involved with these decisions?
How many pieces, basically are
Not displayed, though, I should probably know this. I'm just gonna ballpark it and say maybe, what, do you know,
No idea.
20%?
That sounds right.
Yeah, I mean, most of it is displayed, there's just a handful of pieces that just didn't have space for.
Where is the rest of it housed?
We have it in, some of it, I believe a lot of it's on the third floor in storage, or the basement.
The thing that I would like to see come out of this opportunity is that we have a clearer picture of why we even have an art collection. It should be more than just decoration on the wall, and it should serve a larger, a larger purpose. I can't talk. No talking. It should serve a larger purpose than just decoration, and link into the purpose of the library, so that we have art that connects to certain other things that we have at the library. And it seems to me that there should be a way to do that. We are an art gallery because we have so much art. So making it something and bringing in more contemporary artists now gives us an opportunity to touch so many of the right now issues through art. So that's what I'm hoping we'll all kind of consider and head toward.
That's good.
I know we-
I can go.
You want to add?
Yeah, I mean, I can say a little bit too about this stuff. A lot of you know me as Vanessa. I go by Van now. I just wanted to point that out. And I have a bachelor's in fine art. I'm the designer here, but I also am a fiber artist. I'm doing a lot of weaving and painting. So I've been doing that. That's my heart.
I love it. I'm a hand loom. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we should talk,
Yeah,
yes.
okay. But also, I love art, right?
Yeah.
And I think it has so much possibility. And I was a little bit inspired. My wife works in cancer research, and she was working at Roswell Park Cancer Institute, which is in Buffalo and a long way away. Glad she's home now. But that institution has done an amazing job of having a collection that I feel like you look at, and in a space where people are needing to experience something other than maybe what is happening.
For that.
Yes. Yes. So I think that was the first time when I was like, wait a second, we could be doing better with this. Like you said, even more so than our old space, we have these incredibly beautiful white walls. We have these resources. Some people here are going to go to art museums, but some people aren't. And we have the ability to sort of say, here's a piece. What does this make you think about? The entirety of our collection, I don't know, is gifts. It is an entirely unintentional collection of art. And I keep thinking about what does that look like if it is actually intentional?
Mhm.
Not just intentional, I keep thinking what does it look like if it's influential?
Yes.
I really feel like we have an opportunity to do something that, I don't know, can ignite some folks, that can be more representative of the community, of what's happening in the world. So I have a lot of visions for sort of what this looks like. Generally, it's not about sort of keeping art and holding on to it and having stuff in storage. I mean, personally, I would like to have a little bit more movement. I mean, we have a good exhibits program that is very
Yes.
intentional. And we can marry that with having, like you said, like more contemporary things. And we have funds, both a little bit we have that's in the line, but also in the art that we already have. So we're willing to have conversations about de-acquisitioning some of that in order to sort of create a new life. I think that's what we're talking about here is like, there's a lot to figure out. Like we have to talk about how we do this, how we make those decisions. All of that needs to be built, like you said, based on what's happening in like, and what's in our mission. But to me, it hits every point of what's in our mission. So I think tonight is mostly about, does that sound like a good idea? Can we start to dig in on
Yes.
trying to figure out how to do this better?
Well, I think you said everything has been donated, am I correct?
Yes.
So we really haven't gone through an acquisition process at all.
Well, and the policy is what, from 1999, and we have no de-acquisition policy? Like, we don't even have a
Right.
policy
Right,
to,
but I'm talking about, we have some money, so
yes.
a acquisition policy would seem to me to be the very first thing.
Yeah.
Is how are we gonna go about determining what pieces of art we're going to purchase? And are we gonna purchase only original, or do you want prints?
Well, all great questions, and I
Yeah.
would also push back and say, do we have to purchase? There's a lot of people that do library things, art on loan. Can we build a collaboration with a few libraries where we join resources, and like, then there is an ability
Well, the
to.
Art Institute does lend out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're going big time, sure,
We
yes.
dream big here at Posey Public Library.
We can go right there.
Yeah, but also, to also look at this with our smaller funds,
Mhm.
to look at this is a perfect time to get in some prints and some photography and some textural stuff and sculpture. And, it's looking at not going with some of the big wigs that are already in our collection, but going more toward the talent that's in the community. And so I made an entire list of curators and other people that I have contact with, we should talk. Because there's a wonderful stuff out there. And that's where the county comes in as well, so.
Well, it seems to me what you're saying is there should be some type of committee in place for the purchase of art. And the very first thing the committee's gonna do is what standards are we going to follow in determining how we're gonna purchase art? And what's the process for purchasing art? And it sounds like we have someone on the board who would like to get on it.
I would like to join, my degree's in art
Okay.
history, so like this is something that's very near and dear to me. Like I'm an artist, I studied art in school, like and I specialized in modern art. So I think that this is a tremendous opportunity. I think everything you both said resonates so much. I love the exhibits that we have downstairs when they come through, and I just think something you can see can facilitate such fascinating and amazing conversations within the community. And I couldn't agree more about having diverse artist perspectives. It could link to other events at the library too. Like a lot of people, they look at art and it's wonderful, you can be subjective, but I remember when I decided to study art in school, like it was so amazing to hear perspectives from the artists themselves, to hear expert opinions on things, so you could start to formulate and analyze art yourself. Like it's really great. So I was elated to see this. I would like to be involved. I think it's great. I'm really excited about the potential here. But I do agree when we talk about policy, I ultimately think it does need to ladder up to the library's overall mission statement and the strategy that we're putting forth of inclusivity, of diverse viewpoints, of thinking towards the future, not just the now, and a variety of mediums as well, to your point. Textiles, sculpture, prints, photography, everything. I think I'd be interested, like, have you done any research or anything about best practices for art acquisition? I mean, I think that would almost be a very good place to start, to really understand how other people do it, to kind of give us a framework to look at.
Yes.
Good practices and what, Mary, I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Like best practices or like a standard framework that other people tend to operate with art acquisition.
Yes, so we started this I started this just exploratory with staff. And I have to say, we had at that meeting maybe like a year ago, 25, 30 people there. And we were just staff like sort of saying, this is like, my mom was this artist. Here's an artist who's inspirational to me. And just kind of, I do feel like staff had a lot of investment in this too. And I feel like it's something that kind of bridges where everybody's at in a way that meeting was great. I feel like everybody was like, that meeting was great, which is not what happens with meetings. So, and not that we have bad meetings, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it feels like you guys were like, yes, I feel like there's a lot of energy. And we can bring that, everybody can have that and be a part of it. That's part A. But part B is, so I have been looking.
Okay.
I've been looking at other library programs just to see like who has policies, what policies are available. There's a lot of people who have art collections. I think I'm talking about something that's a little bit more robust than just a collection. It's more of a program. It seems like the parallel for that so far has been in like universities, which, you know, is sort of parallel, kind of a nonprofit kind of thing. And I have found some better sort of frameworks. There's one university that has everything kind of listed out. It's just really helpful to see like how they are doing it. But I also reached out, and I think it'd be a good person to talk to is like the Americans for the Arts. Like this is a thing like national that they do, and I think they could connect us with local people. So yes, I definitely think we need to be looking at how other people are doing it. I think we may need to have a consultant, like some of this stuff there are best practices that we're not gonna know about, so.
At this is actually the perfect time for it, because we have Theaster as an area.
Yeah.
We have Theaster Gates building incredible things on the south side.
Yeah.
And looking at it from that kind of institutional approach. And they're there, they want to help people to develop what we're talking about. The Block Museum here keeps trying to look at how do they make those connections to the community, to history, to moving forward, and they're ready to talk. So I think we do have access. People are thinking about this.
Yeah.
The things you're talking about people are thinking about it, and there's a lot of movement in that direction. So I don't think we have to restrict ourselves to what libraries have done, because I'm suggesting we do something else.
Yes. Yeah, make it exciting.
Yeah.
I feel like we have that
I'm
opportunity.
with you, man.
Well, let me suggest this, that we create, which tells me if we create a subcommittee of the board, then we have to have 3 members and you have to have public meetings. I don't think we want that. So I would say 2 members of the board at most, and staff members. Come up with some kind of committee to investigate and develop a process for the selection of art to acquire and the process for the actual acquisition of the art. I think those are separate. One is the aesthetic question of which pieces do you want, and the other is how do you go about acquiring it? What process is needed? Whose approval is needed to do that? So, anyone suggest any other things, purposes for this committee, or should we call it a committee?
No, we won't call it a committee, but we'll call it a little
Working group, okay.
Interest group.
It's a team,
It's a team.
cohort.
Not a formal committee.
Anything else that you can think of?
I think embedded in what you just said, of course, is what's the budget? You know, so we have existing funds,
Right,
but what
right,
I'm hearing
that
is
would be
more of the funds for this purpose will come from de-acquisitioning.
Good, if they're open to that.
Well, that's, I think what has to happen, right? So,
I can't remember how many funds we have.
We have 13, close to 14,000 in
That's
our
not
formal
a lot.
fine arts acquisition fund.
Yeah.
But we've also
that's
never,
what I'm saying, most
we
of it's
haven't
like
put money into
acquisition.
that fund in as long as I've been here, we haven't, so.
So it's just sat at this 13,000?
A lot,
Have we taken-
yeah, a lot of this,
Haven't spent it.
yeah, a lot of this, was kind of, started in, I think, decades ago when, at that time, the board had a couple of members who were interested in, increasing the art in the library. So that's kind of where this, so we don't even have to use any of this model, you know, I think we can, kind of start fresh and.
I don't think we have a model.
Right, our model is 3 years old, so I think we need to
Creating.
start fresh, yeah.
Well, then I would suggest a motion to create a group to do those things, investigate and develop a process for the selection of art for acquisition and the actual acquisition process.
And just to be honest, I don't think we need a motion or anything.
No, okay.
We could just kind of, I think there's general consensus here, and also it's not an action item yet, so. But essentially, we can form a group, and like exactly what you said, kind of tackle those.
And because it's limited to two, I don't think anybody has to feel like they don't get to do it. Maybe we can trade, you know, I mean, two people start, you get to a certain point, and then two more people come in, so we get the full sense of the board in this process.
I think that if the small work group, gets together, comes up with something, and we can always move this back to the full board and have a fuller discussion, and that's a way to.
The process could require the approval of the board before purchase. Because
So if we have a
that would
policy,
bring the board
Okay.
into that
yeah.
Okay,
If it gets to the point where we really do feel like an ongoing subcommittee of the board is required for any of this process or work moving forward, then I think that's another thing that we'll have to tackle is the
yeah,
creation of this.
I'm already there in my head,
Yeah.
you know, because if the kinds of things that we're talking about here go, that's what's gonna be needed in order to make that happen and not have to come up with money to hire 18 zillion people, you know, to do it, so what does that mean? Where are we then on that whole, you know, like Mary wants in, I want in, that's two right there.
You got
Michelle,
two
you
right
want in?
there.
I mean, do we
And
want?
then however
I'm
many
happy
people.
to provide any input, but I feel your energy. So I am more than happy to just be a landing place for sharing out of ideas. And I will
Shut up.
spread the joy.
Ditto to what,
What she said.
What she said.
Sounds like we have
All right, cool.
Okay.
Happy to trade.
Yeah, with staff and the two.
I second the non-motion. He didn't make a motion.
I like it.
Well, thank you for the discussion, and I'm excited. I think this is a great opportunity, perfect timing too.
Yeah.
But as, you know, we've looked at with the renovated spaces for a little bit now, and now I think this is kind of the next step to really work with the spaces.
I absolutely agree with that, Richard. It's the perfect timing. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I really want to say that I think that it will really help even elevate the library itself, you know, and what it does for our community and really bring together so many people. And I think that that's very inspiring, and I think that it's very exciting to see, you know, us really amp it up, right? Like that's really going to take it to a really great level. So very exciting.
Can I just say one thing? I know you display the high school art
Yes.
students' works. And when I was there last, I was talking to the art students, and they were so excited that their work was going to be displayed at the library. And they were talking about all of the art that's displayed in the library, and they just loved it. So I'm thinking, what is this gonna do for them?
Yeah,
Right.
You know, because it's insane the amount of talent that's in these kids.
True.
Yeah.
Right, and if they were to see somebody who's a little bit older than them, and maybe it's like they actually recognize that work, and we can bring that person here to come and talk about their, like, it just feels like we have a lot of room to get both
Yeah.
emerging and more established
Yeah.
artists.
Very
Because it was really heartening to see these kids look towards the library for this.
Yes.
Right.
So I'm really hoping this goes forward.
And that program for displaying the high school art has been at Oakton recently and enlarged. So that, you know, it would be really interesting to link, that's another link.
Yeah.
That's out there, to really connect with those kids.
So many possibilities. I'm excited, thank you so much.
And I just wanna say, now that I know you're the person behind the artwork everywhere, it's truly amazing,
Come
like,
hang out with me, I have the best office.
like the brand statement, the consistency across everything, like every detail is taken care of. It's great work.
Thank you.
It's great work.
Sometimes I'm the only one who feels like they see some of that stuff, so.
No, it's everything from the font choice to the placement of where you put the logo, to the color palette, to the ratio of the graphics, it's, all the details really matter, so it's great work.
Thank you, Ben.
And the labeling, man.
I'm a team too.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're done with that.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Next, the discussion of the board vacancy.
Yes, I don't know what this is about.
You can handle it.
It's been handled by mistake or something, but, well, as you all know, our board president has announced his plans to step down from the board, sadly for us, at the start of the next month. And so that means that we have, the board has an opportunity now and an obligation to appoint someone to fill the remainder of his term. So Mark was elected to a 6-year term that ends in April 2025. So due to the timing of everything, this appointee will basically serve the remainder of that term. And then because Mark also holds an officer position, there will be a vacancy in the officers as in the presidency. So the board would need to talk about or decide how to fill that role. The tricky thing here is that normally the board would vote for have the officer elections in May of the odd year, right after the April consolidated election, which is coming up in 5 months. So this would be basically a short-term election to basically fill the gap between whenever the person is elected to the presidency and May. So when the board will have another election, basically, for all of those officers' positions. So if there are any questions about that, I can try to answer them, but I also try to provide just kind of, this isn't like written in stone or anything, but I thought it might be helpful to have, because of a lot of these different factors, a short kind of list of dates that are kind of relevant and maybe suggested points within the timeline. And then we looked at the last vacancy announcement that the library used, and I kind of tweaked it just slightly, just to update the dates and all that. So this is up for discussion, basically, right now, and if the board wants to decide, that it wants to make some changes, or if you have questions about the process, and we can discuss that. Also, if the board just wants to also talk about this in February, I think that's fine too, but.
The biggest question that I have is just what the policies are. Like, I would have normally thought that the vice president would it's an interim role, the vice president takes it, and then we move on to what's next. But, so what are the do we have any policies?
Well, the policy that pertains to the board is the board bylaws, and that's, so that's what basically the board goes by, its own bylaws, basically, that it created. There's also a state statute, that speaks to kind of this type of situation. The vice president presides over the meetings in the absence of the president, but our attorney, I spoke with our attorney about this, and she recommends that it makes sense for the board to appoint or to elect a new president for the term between, now or February and May, just so that there's not too long of a gap between. It's such an important role that we don't really want that to go unfilled for too long. So it's good to have a chosen president to fill that seat for the 3 months or 4 months, and then again, have that election in May.
Tuesday first, thank you, Mark.
Yes,
Welcome.
thank you.
12, I think, is when it came out.
Yeah.
11 years, and that's. Carol Anthony was still at librarian, the renovation hadn't taken place, there's so much that we overseen the process, so thank you.
We expect you on Zoom, every meeting.
I would have a suggestion that we not interview the finalists until the April meeting, because April 4th is the election, and this is for the first time a contested election. And so I think if we meet and choose the April 12th meeting, we'll know who's gone and who the new people are, and that might affect who we want to have fill in that spot. We'll sort of have different skill sets, so depending on what we lose and what the elected person would bring on, that might change who we would choose of the others. And it would still be within the 90 days
Yeah.
of the law now, so I would, and that would, we could advertise a little longer, but I would say rather than us choosing in March and then having an election 2 weeks later and losing somebody, bringing another, let us add on what we need after.
That's a fair point, and I mean, the diversity of the board in terms of skills, backgrounds, experiences is definitely an important part of the makeup of the board, so I think that's a good.
How many people are running for the board?
To my knowledge, 4 people are running for 3 seats, we have 3 incumbents included in that. Other more comments or questions or discussion about any of this?
I agree with Jean's suggestion to hold off and just wait to see what the makeup of the board is at that point before we interview and decide on the next.
So we can do the preliminary interview.
Yes,
You know,
yes, but maybe
we
just
can
the
define
final
choice
one.
after we know who our other players are.
We don't have to even post the announcement immediately. I mean, technically, I think Mark said that the formal resignation is on February 1st, so we can wait until after sometime in February to post, and then we'll give us release and kind of that'll push the timeline.
I'd rather expand the time. You look at.
Yeah, that's fine too. I only gave us 3 weeks,
Yeah.
I believe, but the board can specify like how much time it wants for people to be. And we can also talk about how to promote the announcement. More recently, I mean, to Mark's credit, Mark has really tried hard to get the word out and be more transparent about this process. So we've done the website, social media. I think we've had announcements like kind of our digital signage inside the library. So
And Richard reaching out to our community partners.
right,
I think we did that last time.
Yes, we'll do that again.
Also, if you know someone personally, promote the library to them, get their interest.
Right. The board members currently know best, how it is to be a board member and what their responsibility is and the time commitment. It's not a small volunteer opportunity. It's a significant amount of time. Yeah.
And Mark, thank you so much for all those years of service. At least during the time that I've been on the board, you've seen us through a pandemic, a major renovation, and many, many other really important things. So thank you.
Thank you.
For your service.
I'm gonna add a few comments to tack on to that after the meeting when we have some cake.
Okay, anything else on the board vacancy? No, okay.
Would you like me to bring this back up for discussion in the February meeting to further tweak anything, or do you want me to just kind of adjust the timeline and bring it on for FYI?
I think you can bring it up again and just show us the new timeline.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I agree with Mark about giving ample time for people to become aware of the vacancy and to submit for consideration.
Is it okay to wait on the posting the announcement until after the February discussion then, just in case things
I
that.
think if you want to give it more time, you should go ahead and post it.
Yeah, I think you
I
can
would
post
go ahead
now.
and post it, okay.
Yeah.
So we'll post it, maybe next week, and then we'll.
But just assume we'll decide final decision in the April meeting rather than the March meeting.
Right, okay. Well, right now I have, what do I have in here in terms of the deadline? Did I put a deadline? Yeah, I put February 3rd, so I'll make that, March, sometime in March. Is that okay?
End of February.
Okay.
And then at the next meeting, we will have to figure out who wants to do initial interviews.
Right.
I think typically we've done it in two ways. Initial, two board members do the initial interviews and the final candidates of the full board, so.
Right. That can be sometimes challenging, so the more
Yeah,
time we have
more
to
time we
get
have
ahead
to
of
do.
that and schedule all that, it's a big time.
I mean, I think we want to give at least 30 days, 30 to 45 days for the public to become aware and to consider the opportunity.
Yes, so if we post it next week, it'll be.
And go through end of February, and then in
well,
March,
6
we
weeks,
can,
essentially.
our two people can do the interviewing in March, and bring the finalists to the committee
In April. Perfect, okay. Susie, I'm sure got all that, and we'll make the adjustments on the timeline. And I'll bring the revised timeline.
How many board members are up for election?
Three seats.
These three.
Oh, you're also.
These are the hot seats.
Come left.
So, just, what does that mean though in terms of the vacancy of the president's position? If because now we're talking so far ahead, I lost where we are. What happens if something comes up?
So I recommend that the board still, so next month, Jean, I'm assuming you'll be here at the next meeting, you're not traveling or anything. So if Jean's here, as the vice president, he will preside over the meeting. And what I'm recommending is that the board hold an election for the presidency at that meeting, just to make kind of a 2 months. Basically for February through May.
Okay, yeah, no, that's where I got lost. I was like, what are we doing?
I still, even if the appointment is made, the appointment is just for the trustee seat. The officer seat is a separate matter.
Yeah, I get it.
And the May election, officers election, we should still do that because it's a state requirement that at the regular annual meeting, the board should chair that.
Thank you.
I just had a question about what the policy is. So let's say someone who currently holds an office like vice president or secretary or not, if
Right.
they are elected by the board to serve as president, do we have to then backfill that role, or is that role allowed to be vacant? Like, how does that work?
I really think that because the importance of the officer positions, I feel like if a current officer is elected to president, then we should also
Then you have to have another
vote for-
election to fill the other one.
Right, so I'll just say like, we can just call it election of officers or whatever,
Okay.
and then whatever needs to be covered under that can be covered under that.
Got it.
Anything else?
So,
Okay, let's skip the closing for just a moment. Anything to add to rails? Yeah,
We didn't
nothing.
meet.
They didn't meet. Okay, good. Any comments from the trustees? Okay, so let's have a motion to go into closed session pursuant to 5 ILCS 122C2.
the negotiating.
Yeah, you got it. Okay.
Did we get the movement?
Oh, you have to move to go into closed session.
So moved.
Can I deliver
Second.
a water to
Second.
anybody?
I'm okay, thank you.
Second.
Would you like one?
Okay,
I'm okay, thank you.
all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, that passes 7-0. And we'll be in.